Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Becky Brown.
Welcome to New Life. This is Marc Cameron. I am here in the studio today with Jim Burns. It's a Thursday. And if you want to be part of the show, you can give us a call. It's 1-800-229-3000. You can call in. You can ask us a question. And we will do our best to give you brilliant advice here. And speaking of advice, I know, Jim, you've come today with something to share. What's on your mind?
Right. Well, I'm not sure it's brilliant. I'm not sure I give much brilliant advice, but I do love the New Life callers, and they are so sincere and so authentic and so wonderful. And I found in these over the last, especially the last couple of months, Mark, that so many callers are building up walls in their life with, and sometimes for good reason, because walls protect, but walls also divide. And sometimes they put a big wedge in your life. And I'm a good wall builder, so I'm not saying that in a good way. I'm in a negative way. I'd say the first 10 years of my marriage, I built a lot of walls because I didn't realize that communication is a learned trait. And so I want to talk just for a moment about walls, because I think walls, we've got to have walls. They do divide, they do protect, but walls also break down relationships. And defensive communication is the biggest wall for me is being defensive. And, this is where we avoid our own personal responsibility, our feelings, behaviors, consequences, where, walls cause distance. We go into control mode. I think it absolutely breaks down healthy communication. And walls a lot of times with defensiveness, especially, is we just kind of blame the other person. And so we've got to know what our walls are, and I don't know about you, but if your wall is being defensive, here's the question I like to ask. Do I want to be right? And do I want to at times? Or do I want a better relationship? Sometimes you can't have both when it comes to defensiveness. Right. So sometimes I need to zip my mouth, and in terms of a relationship with my wife, Kathy, almost 50 years of marriage, or with my kids or with people who I work with, and I don't always have to be right. Sometimes I just need to learn from whatever they're saying. But that's one of the big walls. I would say another wall for me is the wall of withdrawal. My wife, over the years, we've learned this communication skill. She'll say, "Are you crawling into your cave?" And my dad didn't do this. He was a rager. He was angry. He didn't crawl into caves. He let you know. With me, I'll crawl into my cave, and because I don't want to fight, and I'm withdrawing, and that causes distance. And actually, sometimes if you learn how to fight fair, that can be a great communication skill, but you don't fight by harsh startups and anger and whatnot. You literally have to learn that withdrawing is not going to help. And I love that my wife sometimes calls me out on that. And then I just go through one last wall, the wall of passive aggressive behavior. These are I'm wearing these badges, Mark, in my own life, but it's a biggie. And that's the inability or unwillingness to say what you mean in a respectful way. And sometimes we're either too passive, where we just let it kind of somebody run on top of us, or sometimes we're aggressive. Really, passive-aggressive means that we're in an indirect, unhealthy, negative behaviors toward them. And those are walls. But, the Bible says something very interesting, and I love this because we tend to build too many walls and not enough bridges. The Bible says, "With my God, I can scale the wall." And I think with God's help, we can work through and become better communicators.
See, well, I think that was brilliant, Jim. I love your 3 walls here. And I like what you said here, because being right and doing good, sometimes those end up being mutually exclusive, and we have to choose. Is it better to be right, or do we want to further and progress the relationship? And we want to help you further and progress your relationships. We have a lot of resources here. This is the New Life Live show, of course, and you can call in. But if you want to call in at 1-800-NEW-LIFE, we can help you with all the resources that we have, whether that's a book, whether that's an intensive that we have coming up. If you want to be on the show today, 1-800-229-3000, and we'll be back on the other side of this break.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for over 34 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family, or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addictions, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first step towards genuine spiritual and emotional healing, call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door to a better tomorrow. Call 1-800-639-5433.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. It's Mark Cameron. I'm here with Jim Burns here, and we're going to get right to the calls here today. We're going to talk to Debbie, who's calling from St. Louis, Missouri, who listens on SiriusXM. Debbie, how can we help you today?
Okay, I was calling in about my husband. I got COVID about 3 years ago. And it left me with a lot of stuff. Anxiety is just crazy all over the place. And I started taking some medicine that affected my memory, so I kind of don't take the medicine now and stuff. So my anxiety is really bad. I only take a little bit of it, but it has affected my husband. I think he's going through some depression and stuff. He has really bad rage episodes now, and he faults me for everything. And he's got all these, it's like we're a black couple, so it's like he's got all these white spots that are appearing on his skin, and it's getting more and more. And I was talking to my brother and stuff about it. He said, I had that. He said he's under a tremendous amount of stress. I don't want him to hurt me because, I mean, he says stuff. If you keep talking to me or keep fussing, and a lot of times I'm not fussing, I'm just asking a question, and I'll say, let's straighten out our marriage, and he calls that fussing. He says, I'm going to run away and never come back. Or he'll say, I'm going to snap, I'm going to hurt you, and I don't want him to hurt me. I've been through a lot with him when we first got married, but...
Has he ever hurt you before, Debbie? Physically?
When we first got married, we had some problems and stuff we did.
Yeah, and did he ever address that anger? Did he go to any kind of counseling, a class, take medication?
No, he's a drinker and stuff. He drinks. He's a functioning alcoholic. He drinks beer from the time he gets home until the time he goes to bed. That his coping, he said, like I take medicine for depression, he said that's what he takes.
And how long have you been married?
We've been married for years. It's it'll be 41 years we've been married.
Yeah.
And I'm 4 years older than him and stuff, and he always tells me it's my fault. Everybody likes me, nobody likes you, and he's had the church to hold on to and stuff. And he was playing drums, and he was doing other stuff at the church, so that gave him kind of like a, some relaxation. And then it's a small church, so everybody just thought he was so wonderful, and he takes good care of you. I'm like, you guys are not in my house once we leave from here. So everybody, I mean, I never really talked. They thought I was the bad guy. He's the good guy, and he uses that. Nobody likes you. Nobody. So
yeah, and oftentimes this happens here, Debbie, in the cycle of abuse, is that the abuser will appear in front of others to be the reasonable, rational one, and then they will put you down behind closed doors. Well, Jim, what would you say here to Debbie?
Debbie, first of all, when Mark asked you, did he hurt you, that silence, to be honest, kind of scared me. And why it scared me is because in your silence, you were speaking loads, to us, saying you have this fear. And so one of the things I just want to say right to you, Debbie, and to any of our callers is if there is some kind of domestic violence going on, and you said it was in the past, but if there's some kind of, and you do not feel safe, then you do not pass go, do not collect $200, go get some help, because if you're not in a safe place, then that's scary. When you multiply your husband drinking and your husband saying some of these things over the years in, Mark used the word abuse, and there may be more you may need to get help from somebody to help you understand if you are being domestically abused. So that's a concern. Truly it is. Your husband, would he ever be, he has this little church background, would he ever be willing to get counsel? It seems to me like you're in such a tough place after 41 years that you to get a breakthrough, sometimes that means that you get with a counselor, and if he doesn't do it, you do it, to learn some of the skills to kind of navigate what's going on. Counseling, is that an option?
We went to counseling. I just couldn't contain myself because of so much stuff had happened, so much stuff that I had hid and stuff. And so he was telling my therapist, I just want her to get help. I'm like, no, that's not what you tell me at home. I said, this man got so angry at me years ago just because I would go visit my mom. I said, he threw my car keys so hard, and it hit me in my forehead, and just blood went everywhere. He thought he had killed me. And he's like, just tell him you fell down the steps. So I did and stuff. He verbally abuses me. Now my knee got messed up a couple years ago, and that was from him. I'm always saying I'm sorry to him, or I'm always begging him let's to work things out, and he had kind of pushed me, so I fell, and it fractured my knee, and a couple other things was wrong. So I just told people I fell, and so I just couldn't take it anymore. My son said, Mom, just start logging and recording everything. So I've been logging and recording for about a year. I hadn't showed it to anybody, and it just got so out of control. A couple months ago, I thought he was going to hurt me, so I started calling my sister and being upset, and she's like, Reggie's a good guy, let me talk to him. I'm like, you don't know. So I sent the tape to my niece, and she played it for my sister. They couldn't believe the stuff that he was saying.
Debbie, and it's great to be able to have your sister and your son sounds like he's giving you some good advice. I would go to a counselor who can help you get a plan together, because you can't keep living like this. It gets worse. And you don't want an accident to happen that could be detrimental to your life or to your health or to your physical being. So in this case, I would go get help, and I would talk with somebody, and I would share everything. Don't make him look good. You don't need to do that. You don't need to take care of him. At this point, what you want to do is find someone who you can trust, and a counselor, well, you can trust. That they're mandated to be those people. But if you can find somebody who can help walk you through this, coach you through this, this isn't something that is sustainable, in my opinion, Mark.
Yeah, Debbie, I think you've done enough of gathering evidence here, and I think it's time for you to act. But here's what I would guide you to do is I think you need to have a plan. Because you do, as Jim's saying, you do need to tell somebody, but you don't want to tell somebody and then return home in private with your husband where he may then escalate the abuse. I think you need a plan to leave. And it sounds like you've got your son who's supporting you at least somehow. I'm not sure how close he is, but even if he's not close, there are domestic abuse shelters specifically for women. And so what I encourage you to do is to see if your son can help you do that. Confide in somebody, maybe that's a pastor, maybe that's somebody in the women's ministry at your church. Come up with a plan. I think you really need to get to safety before you reveal to your husband that other people know here. But I think it's time for you to think about yourself here, Debbie. think we're gonna send you a copy of Boundaries by Townsend and Cloud. I'm so glad that you called in today, and we'll be praying for you and your situation. We're going to go to another call here. We are going to go to Eve, who's calling in from Gaithersburg, Maryland, who listens on WAVA. Eve, how can we help you today?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for taking my call. About over 35 years ago, I was married, okay, and my husband cheated on me. Now, on one of your recorders, I'm not going to go through that. Let me just say, my husband cheated on me, fathered a child during the time that we was married. I learned to forgive him throughout the years. We became a little bit more friends. That's all, friends, because we grew up together. So I know his family, and I never departed myself from the family. Although he has been around, he's remarried and everything like that, but he plays these little emotional games with me because, I loved him from my heart, soul, and mind. And it was a thing whereas I was a devoted wife, but I heard one of your people, I don't know what you want to call counselors, say that when a marriage, when one individual cheats in a marriage, it's both parties' fault. Maybe I took that the wrong way, but I wanted to understand where did I go wrong, because I'm kind of still broken with that. And the relationships that I've had, I won't let myself get but so close.
Okay, Eve, I'm gonna hear from Jim here. If you have a radio or a TV in the background, would you mind turning it down, because we can hear that and it's kind of blocking out some of what you're saying here. Jim, what would you say here to Eve?
Well, Eve, it's amazing that you are still wanting to learn how to be a more effective, person and communicator and whatnot. I'm wondering if you didn't misunderstand what that person was saying. I don't know, because I wasn't there and I don't know what they said. And it does oftentimes have anytime somebody, every issue has kind of two parts to it. The only question I would ask is what was my part? You can't blame yourself. Your husband made a poor choice. Your husband made a very seriously poor choice in having, an adulterous relationship. You can't put that on you. What you can do is say, how could, in this next relationship or in these next, in other parts of my life, what could I learn from that? But it's not your fault when somebody makes poor choices. It's not your fault as a wife. It's not your fault as a parent. It's the fault of the adult who makes poor choices. And I think it's really important to understand that. So, yeah. Were there issues in your guys' marriage? If there aren't, everybody has issues. So you want to learn that. You learn from the past. So you're not with him any longer. How do you develop a relationship with the next person? You're not with him any longer. Is that right?
We're still friends.
Okay, you're friends, but you're not. He's not your husband.
No.
Right.
No.
Right. So
yeah. Over that time.
Yeah. That's kind of cool that you can actually be friends, but that's different than in another relationship. Let's say you fell in love with somebody else or whatever. A lot of people make the mistake of going into another marriage and they didn't learn from the first. And so I would be thinking more about that kind of thing. What can I learn from this? But how neat that you actually are friends and that you've kind of forgiven him and moved on. That'll be great for your own children and everything else. But again, I wouldn't put too much blame on you for that. I would say he made some very poor choices.
Yeah, I think, Eve, what I would say, how long has it been since you guys divorced? You said it was 35 years ago that you got married. How long since you divorced?
That's why I didn't want to do it in a quick way. The lady told me to kind of get to the point. But we grew up together. We got married. I met him when 16. We got married when I was 29. Divorced 31.
So here's what I would say to Eve. I don't think that you have fully detached from your ex-husband, and I don't either. Yeah, right. And so I think that's what's keeping you stuck here. And I think When we end relationships, right, that it really needs to be some kind of closure to it, where that person then separates and goes to live their own life, and then you separate and you live your own life. And sometimes it's hard because we have to completely end contact with the other person, but it's the healthiest thing to do in order for us to move on and in order for the other person to move on with their life. And I think that's what I would encourage you to do here, because I think when you can find that detachment from him in a healthy way, you won't feel that draw to keep going back. And I think he's keeping on pulling you back because you have this invisible attachment to him. It's almost like this invisible string that he can keep looping you back in whenever he needs to. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to send you a copy of Intimate Deception by Sherry Keffer, and I'm going to hope that that resource is really going to help you be able to make that final detachment here. We're going to be back on the other side of this break.
When you give to the New Life Scholarship Fund, you're giving someone hope for a brighter future.
I was kind of in the closet and hid with my struggle. Your donation really made the difference, especially in my situation, because I would up getting laid off from my job.
At the New Life Intensives, hurting people are able to begin a new path towards healing and freedom that has an effect on all of those around them.
I think the people who support New Life financially are people that I'll never know. I'll never be able to thank them personally for the gift that they gave to us. Their giving saved me, my husband, and our family from being torn apart.
To help hurting people to connect to the help they need, make your gift to the Scholarship Fund at newlife.com or by calling 1-800-NEW-LIFE and specifying scholarships.
Someone called and sponsored me to come this weekend. Whoever that is, just know that you saved a life. Literally, you saved my life.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found life recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
I'm Steve Arterburn with a New Life Moment. I don't have any problems relating to people. Really, it's true. I don't ever get irritated or upset with anyone as long as I'm alone. It's amazing just how easy life is when I'm alone and isolated. The worst in me can lie dormant for years as long as there's no one around to awaken the sleeping giants inside of me. It may be true that a life of isolation is easier, but it's also emptier. When you don't have to face who you really are, you grow comfortable and stop developing the wisdom God wants for you. Are you going to take your place alongside the millions of others who've decided to abandon life by disconnecting? You may think this is the way life's meant to be, but it's not. And to learn how to break free from your disconnected life, visit newlife.com. I'm Stephen Arterburn, and thanks for listening to this New Life Moment.
Well, I love that even though Steve's on sabbatical, we still get to listen to his wisdom in these New Life moments here. We are going to go back to the calls. We're going to go to Sarah, who's calling from San Antonio, Texas, and listens on YouTube. Sarah, how can we help you today?
Yes, hello. I have a small recovery ministry in this area, And recently I ran into, of course, it was a divine appointment at a coffee shop, and spoke with a gentleman who was very interested in what I was doing. And he spoke very, very honestly about how he believed in deliverance, and he was very gung-ho about it. It was something very passionate to him, just as much as recovery is to me. But he didn't understand, as we were talking, why I would help people in recovery. And he was like, why would you do that if you could just deliver them? And I was like, well, they kind of go hand in hand. And I was explaining it to him, and he took it very well. And in the end, I went home, I studied, the aspect of deliverance biblically, and I was enlightened as well. We both gained a lot from the conversation, but I don't know if I did things, took the right steps in explaining it. And I would just like a little advice. How do you walk into that type of conversation and help people understand that both are needed for the kingdom and both are needed in recovery? And so I'm open to all your advice.
No, this is a great question, Jim. What would you say to Sarah?
Sarah, I actually think you just answered your question. And why I say that is because God is a big God, and God uses deliverance. He truly does. Steve Arterburn and I actually have a very good friend over the years who prayed. She was an alcoholic. She prayed, and she never even had a desire to drink again. And she's a public speaker. I can remember coming alongside of her one time, and I said, I love your story. It's so beautiful. God is a great God. And every person who's been in need of recovery has actually prayed for that. And sometimes God uses deliverance. So this guy's, a part of that. I understand that. But he also needs what you're doing in ministry. And I think sometimes we pigeonhole God by saying he only works in the long-term recovery, or he only works in deliverance, when in fact God uses however he wants to use. And God will heal however he wants to heal. So with this man, you can celebrate his excitement, but you said it well. God can use both. A lot of people come through a deliverance and then they go, okay, I'm delivered. And then they mistake a euphoric experience. And even a God-intended experience, a beautiful experience. And then they go back into their whatever their addiction is. So a lot of people need, sure, the element of prayer and the element of praying for deliverance, but they also need what you're doing. Part of discipleship is discipline. Paul said to Timothy, his protege, discipline yourself for the purpose of godliness. And I look at recovery as a discipline process. So I think you did it right. You said it takes both. So you accepted that. You don't get in a debate with somebody on that. You just said, how great for you. My experience is a little different. And in doing that, I think you're really helping. Actually, all of our listeners need to hear this too, because there are times with deliverance and there's times when we're going to roll up our sleeves and work the recovery. My experience, to be honest, is that it's more often for my life, I have to roll up my sleeves and work my recovery, rather than, I'm sure praying about stuff every day, but there are times when, I'm praying and then God's sending me on a journey to work on my own life. So I think you answered your prayer. Your question.
Yeah, I think here, Sarah, sometimes in the church we use certain words and we use deliverance, and for deliverance it really covers recovery in it, right? Yeah. And I can appreciate the difference here between somebody calling deliverance being this miraculous healing that is instantaneous, but sometimes we're delivered in the process of recovery, and that's where growth happens, is in that process. And sometimes we have to go through, like what Jim is saying here, rolling up their sleeves, tracking through the mud, right? And doing the hard part, and that's where the transformation happens. God doesn't necessarily want to take all of our pains and burdens away without us learning if we're just going to jump back in and we're going to make the same bad decisions again. Sometimes even Paul talks about having a thorn in his flesh that he had to learn to deal with. And obviously the Lord left that for a growing opportunity for him. So I think it's a great question. I think you did answer it very well. But yeah, I think deliverance and recovery, oftentimes they go hand in hand.
I love this quote too. Talking about Easter, some miracles take time. And you know, Jesus was raised in one day, but that whole process is a process, and sometimes a miracle takes time.
We're going to send you a copy here of Healing is a Choice, Sarah, and thanks so much for calling in for your question.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit its addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I have given to New Life regularly because I have so many people that I am referring to New Life who so benefit from the ministry. I just can't imagine what would happen in my area if New Life wasn't available to us.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of all 8 100-day devotionals, including 100 days of prayer, 100 days of freedom from depression, and 100 days of peace. There are also ongoing benefits like the monthly Club New Life CD or download, access to the Club New Life video library, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, discounts on workshops, and quarterly online meetings with Steve. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. Now, look, I know that sometimes people can't call in when we're live and they don't get to have their question answered, but we actually have created a line. It's 888-NEW-LIFE or 888-639-5433 that you can call in and you can leave your question, and we may be able to get to that and address it on air, even though that you're not able to call in live in that moment. Okay, so we are going to go to Marie next. Marie's calling from Seattle, Washington. She listens online. Marie, how can we help you?
Yeah, I had a question. I've dealt with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, chronic, and so lately, I mean, I've been feeling a lot better. It's been 11 years of this, but the problem I have is if I get too happy or something, it's almost like a trigger goes off in my body, and it'll send me into like mast cell activation, where my body, starts attacking different parts of my body, and that makes me, go into fatigue, and it takes me a long time to get back up to normal again. Or if I get sad, it's either like, either those kind of happy, too sad. And so my body is having trouble regulating itself. So I didn't know what you suggest. I didn't know if, I had done neurofeedback in the past, going back more into that, or if you have any suggestions that would help my body regulate itself better.
Are you also under the care of a physician, Marie?
Yeah. I just went to see this one naturopath, and he does SSP, something sensory processing.
Okay.
But yeah, I am, and I also have a counselor that I see when I need to see her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jim?
Well, first of all, I think you're doing the work, Marie. How great that you are. You talked about post-traumatic experience. You've been working on it for 11 years, and it's a lifetime, and so I look at it this way. I look at it as an onion peel. So you have dealt with deep pain that happened in your life, in the past, and obviously you even know, like you're talking about triggers, and you understand what some of this. But I also find that sometimes it's like an onion peel where you peel the onion and then it goes deep. There's something deeper. There's something more that you need work on. So that's where, in this case, you may be at a place now in your healing process where you got to go back and have some more conversation. And it's really hard because who wants to face more pain or more struggle or whatever. But if you don't feel like it's regulating, then there are people, and maybe even some of the same people, who can help you. Say, well, I've already been through that. Well, no, not really, because there's the one part of the onion peel is gone, and now there's a new, fresh part of the onion, that's causing it. And so I would suggest again that you take where you're at and now bring that to the front, and it may mean that you do have to go back and deal with some of the pain. Before freedom comes pain, and sometimes we then get the freedom and then it kind of starts coming back, and so we have to go back to the pain to find more freedom, if you know what I mean. And when Mark,
I may not even know what it is.
No, it could be. And Mark, said it so well. He said, "Are you under the care of a physician? You may need to be under the care right now of a physician, a psychiatrist, a counselor." And you kind of mentioned all of those. So you've kind of done that. But I'd make sure that somebody is helping you walk through this season of your post-traumatic, because again, we live in seasons, and this season could be one that actually gives you some real growth. You remember when kids go through a growth spurt, and they're tired and they're lethargic and all this, and it's a growth, and they're eating a lot. Well, it's a growth spurt. Well, it's the same with what you're going through. You may be going through literally a growth spurt, which means you're getting ready to go to the next level, which is going to give you more freedom and meaning.
Yeah, I think I heard you mention that you have complex PTSD, Marie. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so when we go through trauma, we actually hold the trauma inside of our body, and it stays there until we release it. But what happens, though, is whenever we get these associations to our trauma, our body or our brain puts our body into that trauma response. And I'm hearing what you're saying, something to do with being really happy or being sad, whatever the emotion is, that can really kind of dysregulate you in the body. So what might be helpful is a therapy called EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And what that therapy does is it helps us integrate all of those things, the emotions, the memory, the bodily sensations. And just by doing this bilateral stimulation, we can learn to desensitize those parts in our body, so that the dysregulation, whenever we get the triggered from an association to the trauma, it gets stored in a different part of the brain and it doesn't trip our body. Kind of like when you plug too many things into a power source, right? And it trips the breaker, and you got to go out and you got to reset the breaker. And I think that's kind of what's happening for you. But EMDR can help you, in a sense, kind of get a bigger breaker so that it doesn't get tripped by these things that are happening. But thanks for calling in. We're going to send you the book, Take Your Life Back, but we really appreciate your question here. We're going to go to Sandra next. Sandra's calling in from Stanton, Virginia. She listens on SiriusXM. Sandra, how can we help you today?
My question is, I've been married 5 years, and I have PTSD, and I've been through counselors all my life, and this therapist, she's a Christian therapist. Finally, I got one, and she is doing CPT with me, which is very, very helpful. And then me and my husband had one together. And, he's left the home, because I told him I can't take this anymore. He knows what the issue is. There's no sense in arguing about it. I mean, he knows he's an avoider. He's a hoarder. He's got some problems. His counselor, which was our marriage counselor, I decided to come out of that and let him just take this one as his personal counselor. And so he told him that he don't have PTSD, but we both was triggering each other. And so, he knows he's an aborter. He knows he triggers me. When he gets up when I'm talking, he'll get up and walk away. Or either he'll grab his phone, or he'll look away, or he'll get up. And he comes up with all these excuses why he's doing what he's doing. And I'm like, but it don't matter the excuse. You've hurt me. And we've 2 years, we haven't had sex, and I have felt like he has, when we did have sex, he raped me, because he would just get his stuff, roll over, no big deal, and keep doing it. Just like I felt raped all over again. I was raped when I was 4 years old. And I told him, this hurts me. Please do not do this. The therapist even told him, do you hear her, Paul? You are hurting her. Don't walk away. This is a trigger for her.
I'm so sorry to hear of that childhood sexual abuse, Sandra. Did you ask your husband to leave, or did he leave voluntarily?
I asked him to. I said, we got to do something. If you're not willing, and he said before he left, and the reason I did is because he said, it's all your fault. It's my fault, saying me, not him. And I said, and he starts talking about stuff like, and I say, honey, you do this a lot. You talk about stuff, assuming, just like, oh, who would eat at 3 o'clock? I said, you can't make a statement like that. That's not true. You don't know that. Like just things like that. Or he'll say, you're this way. And I'm like, you're mind reading. You can't say how I feel.
So what's your question for us, Sandra? How can we help you?
Well, I'm at my wit's end here on what to do. I mean, should I divorce? Just separate? I mean, I guess he's went to a motel. I mean, we have a house together, and
let's hear from Jim.
Well, my understanding is that he's not living in the house, so you are separated. Is that right?
Well, he just left. So we've been married 5 years in December. So I mean, it's. He's had therapists, I've had therapists, and I guess the main thing here is he knows he's got the issue. We done come to that conclusion. He knows he's an aborter, just like when we got together. I mean, me needing help, me asking him to help clean up the mess. He's hoarded our house. And, and he knows he's got an issue. And, and it don't do no good for him to have therapy because he keeps saying it's me.
If you're in
he's trying to get the counselor to fix me.
Since you're in a separation, I think it's really important that you focus on this. What can you learn from the separation? And this is the time for you to say, here's what I need. If we're going to ever come back together, this is what I need. And to be honest, one of the things you may need, and this is a great program that we have at New Life, is intimacy in marriage. It's miraculous what takes place. And you say, look, if you're going to come back in, then we're going to do an intimacy in marriage. And that's what I'm asking for. And if he cares, then sometimes he'll jump in and do that. But you want to make sure that in the separation, you're getting through to him.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are. Dr. Heidi Summers on coaching.
A lot of people don't understand the difference between counseling and coaching. Coaches can help you with strategizing. Not everyone is in a crisis or recovering from a trauma. A lot of people just need help getting to where they want to be, and they don't know how to do that. And so it's helpful to have a third party come in to give objective feedback, set goals, create accountability, and help you walk out what your goals actually are.
If you need a coach for life, your career, relationships, your health and fitness, leadership, and more, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
Coaches are intended to help you live in the present and goal set toward what it is you want for the future.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and talk to us about getting a New Life coach today. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live, and Jim was mentioning before the break about our intimacy in marriage. That's going to be next in July 26th in Washington, D.C. We also have our Restore Intensive, July 12th to the 14th in Washington, D.C. Every Man's Battle is going to be online April 13th, and then Emotional Freedom Intensive is going to be online this Saturday, March 16th. So don't struggle alone. Call us. Let us know which intensive might help you best. And even if you have a financial limitation, don't let that stop you. We do have scholarships available. We are going to go to Liz here, who's calling from Charleston, South Carolina, listens on SiriusXM. Liz, how can we help you today?
Hi, I'm calling regarding my 12-year-old granddaughter, and her dad had called me to get some information. His daughter is very boy crazy, and I was hoping that if you had some resources that could guide him to help, ensure that she knows her value, and so that this time in her life, it doesn't go the wrong direction.
Yes. So she's hitting that age and stage here, right? She's 12 years old. I heard this phrase, which I find kind of funny. Too young for toys, too old for toys, too young for boys.
Love that.
Yes,
that's a great one.
But yeah, but she's hitting that age where the hormones are coming in, and she's finding that she's attracted to the opposite sex, and it's normal and it's natural, but this is where we need to give kids guidelines, guide them along of what's healthy, what's appropriate, and what are good dating standards. Jim, what would you say?
Well, that's a great phrase, by the way, Mark. I'm gonna my background is youth ministry, and so I spoke to those 12-year-old kids, and I always used to say, puppy to parents, puppy love is real to puppies. So she's in love. We know it's puppy love, but she doesn't. So I think, Liz, I'm thrilled you called, and I'm actually thrilled that your son is looking for some help. Here's one of the things you got to say to him. Here's one of the things you got to say to him. All research shows this, that the more positive, value-centered sex education, relationship education that kids receive from home, the less promiscuous they'll be and the less confused they'll be. So take this boy crazy thing, and instead of panicking, say, hey, you know what? You're at the perfect age for us to have some conversations. And to be honest, I'd rather have your son and you and mom and anybody else who is loving on her right now, I'd rather have them have 100 one-minute conversations than one 100-minute conversation, if you know what I mean. Sometimes parents will say, we had the sex talk. We did it. She was 12 and we had it, and now it's a process. So because of the boy craziness, this is the time. She's saying to her dad and you and everybody else, you know what? I need some guidance here. And so I wouldn't do it by preaching. I wouldn't do it by lecturing. But literally, I would go through a process. There's so many good resources out there right now for kids who are 12. And there's just like the ministry that I'm a part of at Homeward, we have something coming out in May, and it's an incredible curriculum that parents and kids can use together on sexual integrity. And it's fun, it's upbeat, it's not lectury, it's not a talking head, and you just see all kinds of things like that out there. There's good books. A book for a 12-year-old that we use at Homeward is called The Purity Code, and it's the most often used book in the world on that. So we know that there's these resources. So now what happens is parents have those. Now again, it may be awkward. my daughter said to me, and I used to speak to students about this, and my daughter said, Dad, you were so good with the kids, but when you started talking to us about it, your ears turned red, I'm bald, your bald head sweat, and you stuttered. It's going to be, it's going to be awkward. The other thing I would say about it, though, Liz, is sometimes I find that some of the best conversations take place with grandma, not dad or mom. So, like, we've got an 8-year-old grandson right now, and guess who's the guy who's talking to him about body parts and things like that. He's too young for the being in love thing. I think girls still have cooties in his mind, but it's me. And we have the best conversations about how you do that. Well, as a grandpa, I can kind of do it by being fun-loving and being blunt, where the parents are sometimes too focused on like this scares me to like whatever. So join in on that, and yet there are good resources out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with Jim here. That sex education is an ongoing talk. It's not one event, one conversation that you have. As kids develop, they have different questions that go on, and they hear and they're exposed to different things. And so I find that sex education is best done as the messages come in, right? When they see things on TV. Sometimes you might pause it and say, hey, what's the message right now? What are they saying to you? Sometimes you might want to wait until the end of the show and say, hey, what do you think they were saying? Did you think this person was being pressured? And that's when you can say, what would you do if you were in that situation? And so, and in doing all of that, what we're doing is we're helping kids think through things, and we're building the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that is developing in those teenage years. Here's what you can also do. Your son, of course, this is his little princess here, and maybe she's his oldest or his first, the oldest daughter that he has. But he can talk to her about what it was like for him being a boy at that age, because we know generally girls mature quicker than boys, and boys can pursue in different ways, sometimes that are quite confusing to girls. And so he can use that experience to say, hey, when I was your age, I had a crush on Sally, but this, I went about it this way, and it was really kind of hurtful for her, or I jumped in too much too quickly, and I got too much stuff, and that kind of pushed her away. Right. So he can use some of his own experience to help her understand what boys might be going through at this time. And what I would say for you here, Liz, is partner with your son and your daughter-in-law, Jim was talking that sometimes, the grandparents jump in and they help, but you want to be aligned with them on what they are discussing, what they have, what they're not prepared to discuss right now, so that you and you might even say, how can I help when I have granddaughter with me and we are going shopping? What's something that I maybe could talk to her about, and see what they say.
Okay.
How does some of that sound?
That's a great suggestion. That's wonderful.
Yeah. What has your son tried?
I had 4 boys, so I don't know anything about girls except for my own experience, which was many years ago.
Right. Well, it is a different world out there now, Liz, and sounds like you're a wonderful grandma and going to come alongside of her. And truly remember that, the average kid today in America sees even pornography at age 10 for boys, 11 for girls. You can Google me on that. That's the research. And so you don't want those great conversations being you want them being with you and with the family, not with what she may be, seeing or what the other kids are talking about. Be that dominant force, definitely. Healthy dominant force. And it sounds like you'll do a great job. I want you as my grandma. I think I'm older than you, but I want you as my grandma.
Yeah, and even here, Liz asking her about what she's seen. Yeah, sometimes kids, they're not going to bring it to us, but if we ask them, they will tell us.
The advice you gave, Mark, when you were talking about television all the time, it's called the little clicker, and you put pause and you say, what do you think about that? And now you're having a conversation with them. And what's going on at school, so now they don't have to personalize it, but they're telling you all the good stuff. That's what I did.
Yeah. Oh, Liz, what a great question. And you're a fantastic grandmother calling in and asking this question. We're going to send you a copy of How We Love Our Kids. Hopefully that's going to be helpful to you. Thanks for all of our callers, and just want you guys to know we love you, we care about you. If you need help, reach out to us, 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video, and please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE. But when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way. I'll see you next time.